and let's jump right into it. So happy to see you again. Thank you, If I Live Tonight. And so happy to, it's so good to see you here too. How are you doing? How are y'all doing? Catching it live. Sorry if you hear things going on in the background. I'm not alone. Okay. So, week ahead for the collective, everybody who's coming across this message. Hey, love, how are you? How are you doing? Okay, we have follow your own rhythm. Okay, so jumping right into it, and then we have Legacy of Light at the bottom of the deck. We're going to pull some more, but first things first message that's coming through is, can you just recognize that your life journey and your life story just is going to look different than other people? And one of the things that I love the most as you start getting out, you know, being an entrepreneur and you start rendezvousing with more millionaires and billionaires and you hear all of these stories, right? And I think it was Manifestation Babe who shared this story of her conversations that she's had with people who are billionaires. And she says one of the things that she hears the most common from people who are basically, if you're a billionaire, I consider you to be tapped into unlimited financial resources, right? Financial abundance. So a majority of these people, their main messages are all about being creative and being willing to think outside of the box and being willing to be different. That's the thing that they, or the characteristic that they have, that they really accredit to a lot of their success and a lot of the reasons why they're able to do the things that they are able to do. We're not saying for all of you watching this week that you are aligning with billions of dollars, although you could be, right? Never going to limit you on that. But we're talking about just kind of this path and this journey that you are moving through, whatever this goal is that you are working towards. For a lot of you, it does feel like your career, but at the same time, it feels like your love life. For those of you with the Legacy of the Light at the bottom of the deck, breaking out of those intergenerational cycles of poverty and toxic relationships and having a bad relationship with yourself and all of this stuff, right? You're just recognizing this week that that looks like you doing a lot of things that people in your family have never done before. And a lot of us who grew up in enmeshed households, really quick definition of enmeshment. Enmeshment is when we have relationships and we can't have, or we don't have boundaries in those relationships. So in an enmeshed household, we're going to have the belief system that we all have to have the same values. We all have to have the same experience. One of the things, for those of you who are still kind of wondering whether or not you grew up in an enmeshed household, it's kind of this idea that the main parental figures feeling and mood, that is the feeling and mood that everyone in the household has to have. And one of the phrases that I think really kind of captures this is the phrase like happy wife, happy life. It's this idea that if one person is unhappy, then everybody else has to be unhappy. And so basically what we're talking about is a lot of you all who are going to be resonating with this week's message, you've come from a culture, from a family, society, whatever it is that you want to call it. We definitely see this across social media, where you're not allowed to have your own boundaries. You're not allowed to be your own person, okay, we're not going to argue about whether or not we should be using the phrasing you're not allowed. Basically, if you're not allowed to be your own person and have your own boundaries, then that means the second that you step outside of some role that you've been cast in within your family circle or within society at large as a whole. Oh my God, do you see all these rainbows behind me? Love that. Then you're going to be basically like looked at in a funny way or side-eyed, you know what I mean? And so that's really what you're breaking through this week, is that fear of somebody else looking at you sideways because you are different, because you show up differently. And this kind of does, if we wanted to get a little bit deeper, this goes into this fear of making mistakes in your childhood, within your childhood conditioning, what raising children kind of sort of looks like overall and in general. right now is conditioning them out of who they naturally are and their natural curiosities and their natural reactions and responses to things, and conditioning them to become who you want them to become as it works best for you or for their parents, right? So if my child is crying, instead of teaching my child how to process and identify their emotions and all of that good stuff, I'm going to yell at my kid to stop crying, because while my kid is crying, they are getting in the way of me being able to sleep. It's that type of energy. And so because you've been raised in this way, where you're kind of being conditioned out of who you are into a well-behaved person, you show up within society and you're afraid to make mistakes. It's about recognizing that mistakes are just kind of a natural part of your journey of life. And instead of calling them mistakes, we could call them learning experiences and all of these other good things, right? So getting back on track, the message for this week is, as you're recognizing that you're following your own path, that means that you, hi Purple Moon, how are you, my love? As you are following your own path, you're following your own rhythm, you're doing things that have never been done before. And no, all of your parents are not going to be super duper excited to hear about you not walking the beaded path before you. And so what we also want to talk a little bit about here is the fear that comes with this. And a lot of you are afraid to step completely into this new, it's like embodying the energy of the person that you're becoming. You're afraid to step into this energy because you're afraid of how somebody else will perceive you and how somebody else will respond to you. So you feel like if you show up being 100% completely yourself, that somebody else is going to reject you, and you don't know how to process those feelings of rejection. And so you're still kind of, it's like they're saying like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. On the one hand, you are showing up, I'm ready to be who I am, and show up just living my life, doing whatever it is that I want to do, whether that be loving who I want to love, living where I want to live, getting the degree that I want to get, right? It's going to vary from person to person. And then there's that other aspect of you that's like, no, my parents have told me since I was inside of the womb that I am going to be a doctor, and so I have to be a doctor, and so I'm going to go to school and I'm going to get the degrees and all of that, right? That's the split that we're experiencing in the collective this week. Okay, so we have what is already with you coming up as our next card, and then we have be the hunter, not the hunted. So, oh, this is such a beautiful message. As you all are transitioning, because spoiler alert, none of you, if this message is resonating with you, you're not going to stay and walk the path that has been walked before you. And that's actually not, it's just not an efficient way to live life. If you were supposed to come into the world and live the same exact life that your parents lived before you, then to be honest, what would the purpose of living your life be? You know what I mean? When we're talking about the desire to grow and expand, and move forward and make improvements in the world, it's kind of like if we were still using the cell phones and telephones that they first created 110 million years ago, right? If nobody ever picked up a landline and thought, oh my God, you know what would be so great if we could have a cell phone without a cord attached to it and I could be making a phone call from my car or something like that, right? That person was somebody who was willing to follow their own rhythm, and there could have been people in that person's family that are like, what are you talking about? Cell phones or phones have to have a cord attached to them, and it's impossible for there to be a phone without a cord attached to it, and all of this other stuff. And then fast forward all of these years, now we have computers in our cell phones in our back pockets. And so it's just basically about recognizing that you were never supposed to live the same life that your parents lived. And for some of you, this is very challenging because you are like children of immigrants, or your parents struggled in some way to provide a specific life for you, or your parents did a whole bunch of sacrificing and your parents suffered a lot, and then they guilted you into behaving in the way that they wanted you to behave under the guise that they were putting themselves through all of this pain for you. And so you have all of this emotional manipulation that it's time for you to start working out. Because if we wanted to be completely honest about your parents' experience, your parents were not suffering just because they wanted to take care of you. That could have been one of the reasons, but another one of the reasons that the root cause of your parents suffering in their job and all of that good stuff is because they didn't feel worthy and deserving of easily getting their needs met and all of these other things. And so we're saying all of this to say a lot of you all are holding on to these feelings of like emotional guilt and this burden of I have to show up and I have to be this person and I have to get straight A's and I have to perform in X, Y, and Z way so that I can make my parents proud, so that my parents didn't suffer for no reason. You're taking on the responsibility of your parents' experience, and that's not your responsibility at all. Your parents have their own life experience, and they could have made a myriad of other choices to have had a different life experience, but it's not your responsibility as a child or as their child, now an adult, to live your life and to make certain choices in order to make them happy. And then we've also talked about, I have a post over on Instagram. It's a reel where I talk about like there's no condition that you're going to be able to meet to get your parents to basically love you if they're not loving you already. So go look through my reels on Instagram. I think it was like the second one for that. Okay, so now you're already moving on to the next path, and a lot of you have a little bit of a wobble here because you're wondering whether or not you're actually going to make it onto the next path, or you're going to actually get the thing. And yes, for some of you, they're saying this is like the desire. Oh my God, will I actually make $1 million? Will I have the successful business? Will I open up my own practice? And will I do all of these things? And will I be successful in this way? Will I actually make it out of poverty because my parents never did, or my parents are still experiencing that, and all of that good stuff, right? And so the first message to help you a little bit with this wobble, oh, okay, I'm happy that you're over here from YouTube. Everything looks good on my end, so hopefully it's good for those of you who are watching on YouTube. You can comment if it's not good, but okay, thank you for letting me know. So where was I? Okay, so you're wondering whether or not you're actually going to make that transition to a whole new lived experience. And the answer is yes. And the answer is yes, you already made the transition to that new life and to that new path when you have that desire and when you started actually working towards it. One of the things that's been really helping me is realizing and recognizing every single person who commits themselves to manifestation, they always end up getting their goal and getting their desire. Every single person who commits themselves to some goal and who refuses to give up, they always end up reaching that goal. And it's like, can you actually seriously think about anyone who has been seriously committed to getting a certain life experience and has never reached that life experience? Now, there are people who will talk for their entire lives about, I should do this and I could do this and I'm gonna do this thing. Those people don't count. The people who are actively showing up every single day, taking steps towards reaching their goals, every single one of those people gets success at some point in time. And so it's about recognizing, again, with this following your own rhythm, that you're just kind of having a completely different living experience. You're having a different life experience than your parents before you. And you began having this different life experience the second that you had that first idea, that first inspiration to want something different, to want something more. Having the desire for some of you to go to college was a thought that your parents didn't think about because they didn't even consider themselves to have those options. For others of you, the idea of leaving college or the idea of starting your own business and following through on certain things like that. So this week, really what you want to do is you want to sit and you want to think kind of about your family history, and you want to think about your parents and the choices that they made from your knowledge before you that have kind of gotten you, your family line to this point. And can you kind of parallel and see the difference between you two? For a lot of you, the easiest difference of many is going to be the fact that you're showing up actively working to heal your childhood trauma and to shift your mindset and all of those other things. And for some of you, your parents aren't into that. For some of you, they think it's devil worshipy stuff and all of these other things. And so it's kind of like, okay, boom, we're not even on the same page. We're not having the same journey. So this week, it really is about solidifying that understanding that you don't have to worry about what if I revert and have the life that my parents lived, because it's impossible for you to have that life. You've already thought the thoughts and made the move so that you're no longer in alignment for that. It's just about consciously realizing it. And with being the hunter, not the hunted, ooh, okay, we're almost there. Put a pin in that. Now, moving on to what is already within you. What you're also recognizing this week is, so we had a little bit of that wobble, the wobble that was, am I actually going to reach this goal? Am I actually going to be on it? We already fixed that. Yes, you're already on the path. You've already reached it. It's a part of your destiny to reach it and go farther than your parents. That's what you've come here for. Now, what we're also recognizing is there's a little bit of a wobble of, I don't know if I know how to do this. I don't know if I know how to do this. Can you just sit with yourself and acknowledge, I don't know if I know how to do this. I don't know if I know how to be a millionaire. I don't know if I know how to allow my needs to easily be met. I don't know if I know how to Ariana Grande 7 rings. I want it, I got it in terms of my entire life. I don't know if I know how to allow myself to be loved. I don't know if I know how to run a successful business. I don't know how to do any of this. And then can you let yourself have that kind of freak out moment this week? And it's not going to be for the entirety of the week. Give yourself a day, give yourself a couple of hours to just kind of fully feel those emotions and feel that fear that comes with doing something completely new that you've never done before. Of course, you're wondering whether or not you can do this. And this is when I remind you that your capability is not whether or not you know how to do something right away the first time that you try it. Some of you have the belief that your capability, whether or not you are capable of doing something, is determined by if you can do it and you're an expert right away on the first try. I'm talking to you gifted and talented education kids, brilliant children who understood things right away, and then childhood trauma and expectations outside of you and all of the societal pressures came and combined and really fucked you over mentally and had you thinking that you were worthless if you couldn't immediately understand something or get it right. And then we also talked about that at the beginning of this video with the whole I'm not allowed to make mistakes thing. And so it's just recognizing and creating a whole new definition of what it means to be capable. My capability is defined by my capacity to learn. My capability is defined by my capacity to learn. And because a lot of us were not raised by parents who were patient, okay, we as a society have the running joke, if Johnny had 5 fucking apples, you guys were raised by parents who were not patient whatsoever. And so not only were you in these learning environments trying to learn new skills, trying to learn and understand math, also trying to learn how to be a functioning human being within society, trying to learn how to meet your own needs at working at a job and all of that stuff, you were also being taught by teachers who didn't have patience. I don't know what's going on over here on YouTube, but we're just gonna let it fly. You were taught by teachers who didn't have patience for you and what it is that you were going through and your own personal individual learning curve. We don't even need to get into the public education system and how it sets children up for failure, but boom, just throwing that out there, right? And so we say all of this to say, because you put this pressure on yourself that says, I get it right away or I don't get it at all, you have yourself convinced that you're a failure and that you're not good enough before you've even given yourself a chance. And I think that there's a bit of a misconception in terms of societally, where we talk about the whole like microwave culture and the whole Amazon Prime thing, where people want fast results. People want things, 2 days. People want to get the results instantly. It's not so much, in my opinion, about people want instant results. It's about people don't want to feel like a failure. And people are not being raised and conditioned within a society that focuses on patience and kindness and compassion and understanding. People are raised in a society that says, get with it or get out. People are raised in a society that says, if you don't understand it instantly, you're not good enough, you're stupid, you're dumb. If you don't do what I tell you to do, you're lazy. Hello, hyper-masculine society. And so as a natural result, of course, I don't want to show up and work at something for months and for years without seeing the results that I want to see. If society is telling me, if my own subconscious is telling me that I'm not seeing the results that I want because there's something inherently wrong with me, because I'm not good enough, because I'm a failure. Of course, I don't want to have that experience. And so this week, you're really just showing up and giving yourself some grace. Number one, you're realizing, okay, it's okay for me to freak out because no, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to allow myself to receive more money, and the fucking spiritual gurus on the internet make it seem so fucking easy. Just allow it, bitch. Some of us have had to work for everything in our life. And there are some haters who are watching me going, Nathallie, work hard for what? Yeah, bitch. Some of us have had to work hard. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Some of us have had to show up and work hard and fucking beg, borrow, barter, and steal to get our desires for all of our life. And so the idea of all of a sudden just being able to allow in your desires and allow in money, that's so fucking confusing. I've been learning how to allow myself to receive for the entirety of 2021. That's been my personal growth. That's something that I felt like, how do I do this? And so you're having that freak out moment. How the fuck do I do this? I don't understand. And then what you're recognizing as the week comes to an end, or as you're listening to this message, you're welcome, is that the answers are already within you. And this is not in the cliche way, meditate and the answers are within you. Even though, yes, that is true, but that's not the way that we mean. We mean, this is who you are. Right? And we mean this in a couple different ways. Number one, as an extension of source energy, your experience is naturally set up to make you desire new things. Every single time you desire something new, you're growing and expanding, inner being growing and expanding, universe is growing and expanding, boom, purpose fulfilled. So you're naturally always wanting something more. You're naturally always trying to create something new for yourself. And then in another way, it's already within you. It's already who you are. You are not reparenting yourself to figure out who it is that you are, becoming this completely different person. You're reparenting yourself and you're healing yourself. This journey looks like a journey of coming back to yourself. Coming back to who you were before all of the trauma. Coming back to who you were when you were just 5 years old, living life, trying to have a good fucking time. Coming back to who you are, coming back to the 5-year-old kid who is obsessed with astronomy, coming back to the 4-year-old version of you that is obsessed with fashion, coming back to the 3-year-old version of you that is obsessed with ballet, coming back to the 6-year-old version of you that is obsessed with movies and making movies and television and production and so on and so forth. You're coming back to who you are. And so when we say what is already within you, it's about recognizing that on several different levels, on a soul level, we're going to say, you already know what your next step is. You already know what you want to do. You already know where you want to be going. Some of you are confused about what are my next steps. And that confusion is perpetuated by the fact that you're continuously going outside of you to seek counsel about what it is that I should be doing next. What should my next step be? And what you're realizing is that you can go to 3 different people and they're going to give you 3 completely different answers. And so if you're not tapped into you, if you're not tapped into who you are on a soul level, out of those 3 answers, how do you know which one that you should do? I have been working really hard over these past couple of years to move away from messages that I received years ago from psychics telling me, no, you're not supposed to move to this place. No, you're not supposed to do this. No, you should do this instead. No, Spirit is telling you that you have to do this instead. Spirit is telling you that you have to live this life instead, that you have to align with this instead, that this is what's for you. This what is already within you card, or what is already with you card, is coming through this week and is saying you already know. It's not the job of a guide outside of you to tell you this is what you have to do. It's the job of a guide outside of you to help you tap back into yourself, to help you tap back into who you are. And then when you need that guidance on, okay, I know for a fact that I want to start this business. Now I need to figure out, how do I have a successful launch? And as I'm launching this program in my business, now I'm going to be referred to somebody who's going to teach me, somebody whose purpose is to teach me how to set up all of the things behind the scenes so that I can have a successful 6-figure launch. That's where the guidance comes from. But a lot of you, again, going back to your experience with your parents, you weren't guided back to who you were. You weren't taught to refer back to yourself. You weren't supported as you were naturally becoming who you were in your childhood. You were molded. And you were told, no, this is the goal that you're supposed to have. This is the person that you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to want to do. So this week, you're tapping further into who you are than ever before. You're starting to recognize, oh, I like this, and I like this. I've always loved fashion. I've always loved the idea and concept of being a diva. I've always loved cheetah print. I've always loved this city. I've always loved living like this. I've always loved cars like this. I've always da-da-da-da-da. If you find yourself thinking thoughts like, oh, wow, I have always loved this thing. Or you can start being a little bit more proactive with it, and you can ask yourself, as you're doing things that you love, how long have I liked this thing? And when did I start getting into this thing? Some of you are going to recognize that certain behaviors and experiences and maybe like rituals or habits that you have are things that you actually don't enjoy. And that's a part of the following your own path, being who you are. You're tapping further into that this week. Okay. So you already know your next step. You already know where you want to go. It's not your guide's responsibility to tell you this is your next step. This is where you have to move. This is how much money you have to make. This is the car that you have to drive. It's your job as a powerful co-creative component in this process, as a conscious extension of source energy. It's your job to show up and say, I want to make $10,000 this month. I want to make $300,000 this year in my business. Inner being, spirit guides, guide me to how I can have this experience. Guide me to the different, inspire me to the different programs and things that I can create. Inspire me to the different businesses that will be in alignment with me, where I can experience X, Y, and Z different thing and get this end result. Okay? And with the be the hunter, not the hunted, this is our last point before we get off for today. This is about not reacting. Not reacting. When you're reacting to everything happening in your life, it's keeping you in this cycle of stuck and a feeling of not being empowered. I need to give you an example. You're reacting. Example, your bank account is negative and you have bills due. And now your focus is on, how can I get more money in my bank so that my bank account is positive? How can I, the phrasing that we want to use, we just realized this yesterday in our mastermind call, the first one for September. The phrase or else. You know that you're reacting when you're taking specific action with the belief or the thought process of, I have to do this or else. Whenever you have that or else, I have to show up and create this video or else I won't have enough, especially when it's rooted in lack at the end of that or else. I have to get this degree or else I won't be able to support myself financially. I have to continue working this job that I absolutely hate or else. Terrible scenario there. That's when you're showing up, reacting to life, reacting to the circumstances that life throws at you. And what you're not recognizing, what you're not seeing, what it's time to realize is that you're in this cycle where there's always going to be a new thing that's coming at you. Some of you, this is the cycle that your parents are in, that your parents have been in, and that they may or may not be in for the rest of their lives, where it's the bills are due. The bills are coming in. There's always a new random bill. It's the experience of like, okay, you pay all of your bills on the first, and then your tire pops on the freeway, and now you have to pay for a new tire. And then this happened with my car. Now I have to deal with this. And then all of the light bulbs went out in my house, and now I have to deal with this. And I'm just so overwhelmed. Some of you might use the phrase, if it's not one thing, it's another. You are reacting to life instead of showing up and using this current moment, this current experience, this contrast you may be experiencing to get specific about what it is that you're wanting, to attune your point of attraction, to focus or to refocus. So we've talked about reacting to life. Now we want to talk about creating. Be the hunter, not the hunted. Creating your life looks like, I'm allowing in enough money to get my needs met. Creating your life looks like, I'm allowing in a $10,000 month in business. Creating your life looks like, I am aligning with a new Mercedes SUV by the end of November. Creating your life looks like, I want this apartment and I want these bedrooms and I want this and this and this and this and this. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I said, if you guys want to call it delusional and allow yourself to be delusional. You're over-identifying with your current situation and circumstance, and that's the last thing that's keeping you stuck. Underneath the be the hunter, not the hunted, we have release the dark wound, let love live. You've done a lot of the inner child work. You're ready to completely level up. You're ready to shift into this new life experience. And the thing that's keeping you stuck in that old life experience is the fact that you're not focusing on what you would rather have. You're focusing on what you don't want. Example, as I have been shifting out of my own thought patterns, I recognize that I kind of, worry a lot. I kind of will worry about a situation, or I'll think about like if me and a person, okay, me and this guy, Eugene, his name isn't Eugene, but I've been calling him Eugene. So whatever, his name is Eugene. So I was thinking about the situation with me and this guy, Eugene, and then my spirit guides are like, you are harping on this situation more than you need to be. You've already processed your feelings and emotions. You already know what you're doing moving forward. It's no longer serving you for this person to be in your thoughts. And you know, it's natural as we're thinking about people more and more habitually, you start building up that momentum. So as we're wanting to slow down that momentum and build up the momentum of what I'd rather have instead, when Eugene pops in my mind, or when you're thinking about that situation, or when you find yourself going off on that tangent, I can't believe they did X, Y, and Z, da 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 da. Can you stop yourself in your tracks and can you just completely shift your focus to something different? I shift my focus to, I'm gonna look so good in this cape outfit that I am designing for myself in my mind, and I'm gonna be out to brunch in the city and I'm gonna look so fucking good, and I'm gonna have this bag and I'm gonna do my hair in this way, and I think I might get a wig, and I think that I want to try blonde hair, you guys. I don't know. I think I could look good with blonde hair. My mom looks really good with blonde hair. So I'm thinking maybe I should get blonde hair or like a wig with like some sort of like blonde highlights or like an ombre thing. So I'm just playing around with that in my mind. And then it becomes a visualization exercise. And then it becomes now I'm completely focused on the future. And what do they say? They say it's like 15 seconds, 17 seconds of you sitting and focusing on something to God, what is I don't understand. I don't remember the phrasing that they use, but basically like to activate that vibration within you, that new point of attraction. And so can you just begin paying attention to yourself? This is that conscious, deliberate co-creation. This is that taking control of your mind and your thoughts and not letting your subconscious run you and keep you stuck in that cycle. Can you recognize when your thoughts are going to a place that is no longer constructive for you? I am allowing my inner being to help guide and shift me in my focus and my thoughts, so that way when you're thinking about the problems that are no longer serving you, because you've already processed the emotions. If you haven't processed the emotions, then you do that first, of course. But once you've already processed the emotions and feelings, you know when it no longer serves you, okay, now I'm going to focus on this. And how cute would I look in this apartment? And I think I want this type of furniture. And ooh, what if I had 1,000,000 pillows? Would I like a bed where I have 1,000,000 pillows? Would I like ceiling to floor windows, wall windows? I don't know the specific term, whatever. But you just start thinking about those things, that future that you're wanting to create. For some of you, it's going to vary whether or not you want to think about big picture things like the end of the year. Some of you are wanting to focus on, no, some of you are wanting to focus more on specific short-term goals. That's okay for a majority of you who are going to watch this, who are resonating with this. You don't want to focus on that. You want to keep it broad. You want to keep it open. And let's not put time periods on it at all, because that time period is showing up and manifesting as pressure and subsequently resistance that you don't need. So if you can just allow yourself to get into that fantasy, get into that visualization, activate that and really experience it and feel those emotions. I like to use music to help me do this. Music and visualization. I've been going on walks and runs and different things like that. So that's what I've been doing to help me tap further into that energy. Hopefully that helps you too. For those of you who are catching it live, I honestly don't know if I'm live on YouTube at all. So if you're here, you can comment. For those of you on YouTube, go out and comment. Let me know how this is resonating with you. Barbs, I'm so happy that this was resonating with you, was hitting home for you. Good. I'm happy that you're doing good. I am doing pretty good as well. I've been resting a lot, super duper tired. That's why I haven't been so active. I've been shifting like crazy. I've been so excited for seeing you moving. Thank you so much. Yes, I have so many updates and different things like that to share with you guys. Okay, so love y'all lots. I am getting off of here now. Hope that this was helpful. If you want to come and work with me one-on-one, you can DM me. You can also email me. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.